With fuel prices rocketing, the UK is trying to protect its energy supply. But with much of that energy found in the North Sea through fossil fuels, what does it mean for our climate targets, the Scottish rural economy, and the cost to the UK taxpayer? Tom's been finding out.
For 50 years, North East Scotland has been the centre of the UK oil and gas industry, providing vital jobs and worth billions to the region's economy.
Growing up in this part of the world, you can't really escape this industry. It's a big part of who you are. And your neighbours, your uncles, your aunties, everybody seems to have some sort of career in the energy industry.
Emily Taylor has worked both on and offshore as a health and safety advisor, but now works to help the industry reduce its carbon emissions. She's one of nearly 200,000 people in the UK whose lives are tied to the price of oil and gas.
When the oil prices crash up here, it has huge impacts on the community. It's basically overnight. The restaurants in the city goes from buzzing and busy to quiet to dead, because people lose their jobs, people lose their incomes, people are scared, and so they don't want to go out and enjoy the area and spend their money. And as a result, the restaurants have to close, the coffee shops and the sandwich shops all suffer. It's the knock-on effect. The whole backbone of this area is on energy. And to be honest, without it, there's not many other industries up here for people to work. Over 100,000 people work offshore at the moment up here, so it's such a big part of who we are.
North East Scotland isn't the only area reliant on fossil fuel. Most of the UK is. Roughly 2 million rural homes are heated with oil, while gas warms most urban houses and generates 40% of our electricity. But investment in North Sea fossil fuels has been dropping as global prices made it cheaper to import. Billions of pounds have also been spent in the North Sea building offshore wind farms to help the UK transition to renewable energy. But after Russia invaded Ukraine, we've seen soaring energy prices and fears of shortages. In response, the government wants to reignite domestic oil and gas production, sparking serious opposition from environmental campaigners. Emma Brown is from the group Just Stop Oil.
Why do you think it is so important to, in your own words, just stop oil?
Because not only is it completely driving a horse and cart through any kind of climate action, it's also sending a terrible message out to all of the other countries of the world that they can continue that exploration and burning of fossil fuels.
And I guess that's why you think it's worth breaking the law and blocking the traffic for.
This is a time when the government are not listening to their own advisors, they're not listening to the UN, the International Energy Agency, they're not listening to their own climate change committee. And in that context, stopping some traffic and throwing some paint is a very moderate reaction.
Given that we still have a demand for oil and gas, is it not better to get it from our own waters, our own shores, rather than import it from overseas, which has a greater carbon footprint?
That's a complete myth. Our oil and gas is sold on a global marketplace to whoever is the highest bidder. It doesn't give us energy security, but Scotland has potential renewable energy. So we need now to be investing in the renewable energy that's our future, and we need to leave our North Sea be.
This year, the UK has started offering new licences for oil and gas exploration, with nearly 900 locations in the North Sea up for grabs. Deirdre Mitchie is head of Offshore Energies UK, a trade association representing the offshore industry.
Will the new investment in any sense help the energy crisis in Britain at the moment?
It is helpful in that, we can ensure that we continue to have security of energy supply in the UK going forward. It's not going to impact the price, no, because it's a global price.
So it's not going to help households in the UK?
No, but then again, so that the profits that are being made and are being taxed, obviously the government can use that, and that will go to helping the consumer crisis that absolutely needs to be addressed.
This year, the government introduced a new tax on the industry to take more money from the profits these companies are making. But that tax also served another purpose, to incentivise companies to drill for more oil and gas in the UK. To help me understand how a tax can do this is senior economist Stuart Adam from the Institute for Fiscal Studies.
Earlier in the year, the government announced the introduction of the so-called energy profit levy, widely referred to as a windfall tax, which imposes a high tax rate on profits from North Sea oil and gas production, but also included an investment allowance, which was extremely generous, extraordinarily generous, in how much it allowed companies to deduct from their tax bill when they invested in North Sea oil and gas. The result of that is that if a company invests £100, it only actually costs them £9 to do that. The government covers the other £91.
So if they invest £100, it only costs them £9. That sounds like a staggeringly sweet deal.
It is extraordinarily generous. New investment that might not have been profitable without that investment allowance is effectively now being subsidised. You can have investments that, economically speaking, aren't worthwhile. They would be loss-making investments, but because of this generous allowance, they become profitable for the company to do.
There are around 100 companies operating in the North Sea, like Shell, which moved its headquarters to the UK this year. Shell made a global profit of over £8 billion between July and September, but hasn't paid tax in the UK on its oil and gas profits, in part due to significant investments in the North Sea. Shell has also just announced the development of a new North Sea gas project called Jackdaw. Under our tax rules, most of the cost of this project could be offset. So Shell won't have paid any tax here recently, and the UK could pay for most of its new gas project in tax relief.
Why should we be subsidising the extraction of fossil fuels?
So in the UK, we are not subsidising the extraction of fossil fuels.
We're subsidising the development of new oil and gas fields.
So we are looking to incentivise that, because we do need oil and gas to keep us going as we go through this transition. The UK still needs energy, and far better for us to produce that oil and gas rather than import it. Importing oil and gas doesn't pay taxes, it doesn't support jobs.
But with this level of profit, and if you look at some of the big companies around the world, it's 50 billion in 6 months. Do you really need tax incentives to develop new stuff? Just develop it out of your profit money.
So I think that we've got to make sure that people do understand that actually the profits that have been made from the household names that we talk about, only 10% of those profits are actually made in the UK and are therefore taxable. But absolutely, we absolutely are happy to pay taxes and do so willingly. Our point is, though, that we need to make sure that this is still a competitive area in which to invest.
The UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and the International Energy Agency have both warned we shouldn't drill for new oil and gas fields if we want to hit climate targets. But can we offset new exploration by investing in cleaner energy at the same time? Hinkley Point C nuclear power station is being built in Somerset, and the government is investing £700 million in Sizewell C, which could start being built next year. There have also been discussions over more large offshore wind projects from companies including Shell, although pending approval from their board. Barnaby Wharton is the head of policy at the industry body Renewable UK.
We're seeing the oil and gas industry getting a tax break for new investment. What government financial support is there for new renewable development?
So that there is no direct financial support that goes from the government to new renewables. We're not seeing a similar tax break for new investment. So while if you are building, if you, for example, built a wind farm to connect to an offshore platform to decarbonise the power for that platform, you could get a tax break for that project. If you're building a wind farm to connect to the national grid to support consumers and lower bills for consumers, you don't get any tax support. So we want to see that levelled up so everyone is treated the same.
So at the moment, you can get a tax break if you're developing renewable energy to support fossil fuel development, but not if you're doing renewable energy to support people in their homes?
Exactly. We need to invest £175 billion in new renewables projects by the end of this decade to meet our climate change and decarbonisation targets. So I think it certainly diverts money that could be spent on renewables into other parts of the economy.
We asked the government about the tax incentives for new North Sea oil and gas, how that affects us meeting our net zero targets, and why there is no equivalent tax incentive for on-grid renewables. The Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy said it's backing reinvestment of the sector's profits to support the economy and our energy security, while the UK oil and gas sector is well positioned to roll out new carbon capture projects, investing in clean technologies while protecting jobs and expertise. It didn't directly answer the question as to why there's no equivalent tax relief for on-grid renewables. The future and fortunes of people in the northeast of Scotland are closely tied to UK energy. More oil and gas incentives could mean more jobs, though Emily Taylor hopes that doesn't also come at the expense of continuing investment in new renewable energy.
I wanted to be part of an industry which was buzzing, it was exciting, and especially now, a big part of what I do now is about transition and about how do we make the next step in the energy journey for the country. How do we move away from oil and gas and into wind and into carbon storage. This city and this area has got so much to offer. So we need that continuous investment. We need that vote of confidence in what we're doing up here, because what we're doing is changing the way that we energise the country.